From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, show about Star Wars pop culture and the ultimate adventure, life itself. That's right. The tongue isn't working, the mouth is not flowing yet. I'm not the mouth of Sauron, indeed. I'm Ken Knapsack. That's Joseph Scrimshaw. This is Star Wars Rank.
Very happy to be here. Laughing at our we've been doing this for over 10 years, and still rocky starts. You said that you were gonna hit record, and instead of getting prepared and maybe making eye contact with the camera, I leaned forward and started finishing typing my list, so I looked like a psychotic person.
It's ForceCenter on the go. We're in the middle of a busy day. That's what it is. Set of emails. Now this is Star Wars Ranked, which is our series of ranking Star Wars. It's a title and play that's been going on for a very long time, but we have a new series we just launched, and it's our favorite scenes in Star Wars films, and we began with episode 1, The Phantom Menace, so check out that episode. And we're going to dive right into episode 2, Attack of the Clones. We're going to give our overall thoughts here. This film has been at the center of so many important ForceCenter conversations. I can't wait to dive into it.
Yeah, I'm very excited. They showed this film recently at the Academy Museum, and it sold out. I was going to try to go, but then the horrors were happening in my hometown, so I couldn't. But man, I can't wait to see this one again in the theater. We've talked about it a lot, but just to be honest about my bias, I think this film is usually on a lot of people's dead last when they rank the Star Wars films. And I recognize many of the flaws. There is a stiffness to it in parts. There is a real sense of, there is a lot of CGI. So there are scenes that feel almost surreal and floaty because not everything in the scene is tactile and grounded. So like, I get some of the things that people respond to, and we'll talk about some of the substantive moments like sand, I'm sure. But I just love this damn film. It's the ideas, but it is also just the if you were trying to gently ease people into Star Wars and ease people into George Lucas's Star Wars, which is this intense mix of mythic philosophy, grounded real world politics, and just pulpy weirdness. If you were trying to gently ease them into that, this is the exact opposite film that you should show them. This is
is this the one? Oh no,
it's like the original Star Wars is like, interesting. That's been cut with a little something. And Attack the Clones is like, no, this is pure, uncut George Lucas Star Wars. It is weird. It is pulpy. It is in your face, blatant real world political conversations. It is, mythic. And it is also like one of the films that is the most invested in bridging the lore gap between the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. It's about where the line of Padawan and Master is discussed, Boba Fett's origins, the clones and what they mean and how they connect to the Empire. The seeds of Anakin's fall are introduced in Phantom Menace, but they are so explored of the why of his fall in this movie. It's just, it is it's such a linchpin to all of the ideas of the Skywalker saga in Star Wars in general. And then final thing, this has so many good scenes. Like Phantom Menace was an interesting discussion because wow, I have a lot of favorite moments. I have a lot of favorite lines. I have a lot of favorite ideas, but what are the isolated scenes where there's like kind of a structure and it is a scene? Attack the Clones is just like banger scene after banger scene. And a lot of them, I think, kind of the best of George Lucas's direction and writing in the prequel series in isolated scenes. Well, I grant people that Attack the Clones is really awkward in places. Some of these individual scenes are like, but this is great writing. This is great acting. This is great camera placement. This is great music to help tell the story. There are just so many banger scenes in Attack the Clones that this is torturous to me to only pick a few.
Maybe you can buy one of my spots. Maybe we'll add a new wrinkle to the Star Wars rank game we play now. Trade a spot for something else. I'll trade you one Attack of the Clones for one Empire Strikes Back scene. No, I love hearing you talk about this film, and I've loved hearing you talk about this film for now over a decade. And it's been important to me as a Star Wars fan to look at this film through your eyes, because I was one of those folks that would be like, well, Attack of the Clones might be my lowest. And then there's the Clone Wars movie, which we are going to talk about because over the years I've grown to love the Clone Wars movie. But Attack of the Clones of the live action, I'll rank lower. In fact, that just happened this weekend. I was in the back of a car heading to the Comedy Store. A comedian we know was driving, and I'll leave names out of this, Mark, but someone was in the back seat who might be a DJ and a witch, friend of ours, and we were getting into a discussion about Star Wars again, which could get heated.
Why?
And she says, is there even one you don't like? And I went, I guess Attack of the Clones. But I just had to concede the ground. But also, that's not even true anymore. Like, that's why also we have a show, Star Wars Ranked, but it's our favorites versus the definitive list. Because you're right. And even this morning and kind of going through the movie, which, by the way, for the amount of money I pay to Disney Plus, the fact that I can not easily scrub forward on movies without the thing kind of freezing. All right, Uncle Bob, I know you're leaving. Maybe you fix that on the way out. But I agree with you. The every scene is a banger thing. Like we establish what a scene can be. We know both as writers what a scene is, but also I made some notes of like entire sequence. I guess I'll cut here just so maybe anyone else can talk about the other stuff. There are just these great moments. And yeah, some of the comedy doesn't work. I'm still not going to stand up for the 3PO comedy, even though it doesn't bother me like it used to, of course. But and some of the dialogue, yeah, everything about it, you're right. I can concede those points. And maybe that's why I still will say, all right, I'll rank it lower is just some of the stiffness that is present. But the scenes we're talking about, the shirt I have on, that represents one of the great scenes. I think they're great. I think this movie is misunderstood. I think it's misrepresented sometimes in the fandom as just this silly little cartoon of a movie. And it's got some of the key scenes in the prequels. George's mission statements are on display here. And there's so much to crawl and up into and enjoy.
Yeah.
So we'll do it.
And I think there's stuff that we'll talk about that I think is like, this is legitimately very well done. But there's also, for me, I feel this way about Attack of the Clones and Temple of Doom. I enjoy art in different ways. And sometimes I enjoy films because like I take a flawless film, Casablanca, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Get Out, like flawless films. And it's fun to watch a flawless, amazing lightning in a bottle film. But then a lot of the films that I'm drawn to are like, I like the things that I think are incredibly well done, and the things that are wonky or weird or imperfect fascinate me, and I'm compelled by them. And I don't think I understand every beat, and I have opinions about every beat of the Anakin and Padme romance. I don't think every beat of it works, but it's compelling. Like if it's on, I want to watch it. And that's part of Attack of the Clones for me, is there are parts that I think are fantastic. I don't think it's a perfect film. And if I was talking to our DJ Witch friend and she brought up all the reasons she thought it was bad, I'd probably be like, yes, I agree with you. But like, it's fascinating to me that in Filmland discussion, like, Nicolas Cage goes out and just makes a bonkers film where the script isn't that great and he makes weird choice after weird choice, and people sort of like love it because it's hypnotic, it's compelling in its weirdness to badness. But that never gets extended to certain films, and I feel like that's a part of Attack of the Clones. I think it is underestimated, and there are parts of it that are brilliant, and the parts of it that aren't brilliant are like Nicolas Cage screaming the bees level compelling, that I'm intrigued by them, want to watch them, want to think about them,
Yeah, and look, if we're having a discussion about individual movies as film critics or reviewers in the classic sense of the movie media landscape, I think it's right to look at individual films and here's what worked, and here's what didn't, and blah, 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 blah. That's why you and I both will concede some of the points. But as a Star Wars fan who loves Star Wars, who loves this franchise, who loves the greatest saga ever told, you don't get to overlook a movie like this to me, because it is rich with ideas. It's rich with theme statements, and it connects to so many other things, including many of the scenes we'll, I'm sure, discuss today. We'll have to contain ourselves. But anyways, that's my opening rant on Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
It is wild. It is a little wacky. It is, yeah, definitely stiff, but it is pure Star Wars.
So stiff yet so alive.
Yes, it is. It's just got a bunch of shack butt all the way through it.
Big old cow butt. Butt cow.
Let's do it. We're going to rank 10 to 1 as we have established here in the last year or so on a new version of Star Wars Ranked. We don't know what the other person has on their list. We have talked about this movie for so long. I think we have sometimes hints and clues and insights into what the other person wants to maybe discuss, but everything's up for grabs here today. But I will start with number 10 so that Joseph can close our list with his number 1 or our number 1 collective. And we had a conversation last week about can we still joke about Star Wars and how satire and parody and poking a little fun at Star Wars has become, it could be heavy-handed. It could be used as a weapon. It could be just a doorway to a larger discussion in the back of cars driving to comedy stores. But I love this scene, and it's a scene that I even back in the day when I wasn't so sure about the movie, I'd still say it. I'd probably misquote it a lot, but I just think it's so fun. Therefore, when I think of Attack of Clones, this is a top 5 scene that pops up in my head. I think it's also a great scene, and that is where Anakin and Padme return to Tatooine. They get a little ride, and they find Watto, and they find a fly-covered, bearded Watto. And there's an exchange that has one of my all-time favorite Star Wars lines. And a Jedi, what do you know? I think that is one of the greatest Star Wars lines ever. I enjoy it. And, there's a lot of play there. There's Anakin on this important, if not somewhat desperate search for his mother. This is where you talk about early signs of the fall that's happening, signs of his attachment. Signs of his obsessions are all through this movie, and we'll talk about those scenes if they come up. But you have Anakin on this mission. You have Padme kind of taking it all in, and then I just there's something I love about returning to Tatooine, basically returning to the Phantom Menace, where. And a movie that you already brought up, not all the CGI holds up or whatever. It's groundbreaking, but it's also of its time. I like Watto's face here. I think there's some great Watto acting as he starts to realize what's happening. The and the look over to Padme, and then that's where what do you know? But and then immediately into, hey, there's some guys I know. Hey, could you help me out here? I just think it's a fun scene full of life and energy. And in 2002, I was already feeling 1999 nostalgia. So I don't have any more depth on the scene. There's some things there we can discuss, but I just love this line. It stuck with me, and I want to put it on the list. Annie and Watto.
This is great because there are 2 scenes in this film that we've done entire episodes about. So I know there's some scenes that you and I both like that are meaty. But besides that, I didn't know what scenes you might pick. So this is a real delight that you picked this one. I do think Watto's performance is one of the finest acting performances in Attack of the Clones. No, it's true. And you watch the behind the scenes, I think the animators really had fun with, let's really make these digital creatures, characters have as much personality as possible. People make fun of Dexter Jettster pulling his pants up, but that's, everybody's trying to get a character. And I think Watto, this down and out loser, they give him so much personality on all of his little things. One of my favorite is the dime drops that it's Anakin and he's a Jedi, but also the dime drops that he's tall and handsome. And Watto's got that little, he shakes his little hand ooh, cool drink of water. Who knew that? It's very weird, but it's very honest. It's that annoying whiny kid who used to say yippee in my shop is whatever the Star Wars version of GQ is. Watto's damn. Damn, son. That's all in the performance. And I think it's I think it is a great continuation of the Phantom Menace in that in Phantom Menace, the idea is put forth that everything goes around the pod racing, and greed is this great weakness that can be exploited to help people. And we see Watto, a victim of his own greed, down on his luck, the hat, the stubbly chin,
Mhm.
They owe me a lot of
Mhm.
money. In the desperate begging. So I think we see the fallout of his greedy folly, and that it is great. Anakin could just want revenge on Watto, right? But that's not where his mind
Mm.
is. Instead, Anakin is wrestling this
Mm.
whole film with going in back and forth between being cocky and arrogant about how powerful he is,
Mm.
and in great fear that he won't be powerful enough at the right moments. And I think that power inversion between former s- slave owner and slave,
Mm.
and Watto begging him for help in a moment where Anakin just gets to be sort of quiet in his power, but you have to think he's like, yeah,
Mm.
I,
He's simmering.
I said I'd come back here. I said I'd become a Jedi, come
Yeah.
back here and rescue all the slaves. I'm not doing that, but
Mhm.
this guy
Mhm.
who, I probably had nightmares about does not concern
Yeah.
me at all. In fact, he's begging for my help.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. There's a simmer to Anakin
Hmm.
in these scenes. The water's boiling. This we know, but yeah, and especially making me think of even the Phantom Menace novelization where Terry Brooks does go into Anakin's dreams
Hmm.
of coming back, and they're pretty powerful. Just know that's all at stake as a Star Wars fan. So I love this scene. So
Hmm.
there you go. And a Jedi. What do you know?
Oh, what do
What do
you
you
know?
know?
What do you know? Yeah. Oh man, there's so. Oh, I thought I got my list down, but I was
Mm,
wrong. I was wrong.
hmm
Um, yeah. Okay. Do I go big, Ken, or save it?
mm. I mean, I'm looking at my list. I'm like, this is going to ramp up fast. So,
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, you know what? I'll go to this one. I'll go to this one. This is a good one. This is Yoda and the Younglings. Um,
yes.
Half of, when I was just kind of brainstorming about this, every scene was an Obi-Wan scene. It's one of the reasons I love this film is it's got so much Obi-Wan. The detective story is great, and it isn't just surface level camera shots. It is, as we've discussed before, and we'll discuss again. There's a lot about it, of the way that
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan interacts with different kinds of power and assumption,
Mm-hmm.
that make it really powerful. I love the Yoda and the Youngling scene for a couple of reasons. One, I think it is a great Yoda scene to connect him back to the character that we met in Empire Strikes Back in particular. Um, he's not, you know, Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, we meet him and we know he's playing Luke, but there's also like, it
Yeah.
seems to be being playful is maybe a part of his character, and being joyful is a part of his character. So I love seeing him teach younglings, seeing that like this sort of power structure idea of I'm the Grand Master of the Jedi Council. I could be doing the most important things. And to me,
Mm.
spending time with every youngling is the most important thing, teaching them, guiding them. So just that. Then the fact that he's just really playful in the scene, making jokes and sort of training the Jedi, the children, to take their responsibilities seriously, but also not to take themselves too seriously. Like I feel like that's part of the instruction in front of the younglings to say, Master Obi-Wan has lost a planet. How embarrassing! How embarrassing! Is a
Mm.
fun little singer
Yep.
at Obi-Wan's
Yep.
expense, but it is to be like, have a sense of humor, have a sense of joy about what we're doing. I think it's a little glimpse into this is what's going to be lost, this sort of peace and care in the Jedi
Mm.
Temple. But then the actual heart of the scene, there's so much in Attack the Clones that we will talk about that is about knowledge versus wisdom. What do you know
Mm.
versus
Mm.
what facts do you know versus what facts do you assume versus how much do you spend time thinking through uh, what do those facts actually mean and how many assumptions am I making that are blinding me from trusting my own instincts or trusting or stopping me from trusting what is obvious. And both of those things are in play. The scene starts with it can just sound like general Jedi philosophy, blah blah blah, but he's teaching the younglings at that very young age to wear those blast shields down and trust their feelings. Your eyes can deceive you, as Obi-Wan tells Luke in the
Mm.
first film. So we're seeing him teach them to trust their instincts, to trust wisdom more than the facts that they think they've seen and memorized. And we go from Obi-Wan getting a big blast of just the facts from Jocasta Nu of, I am so overconfident in my knowledge, in my library, in my rigidity, that if it's not in the archives, it doesn't exist, period.
Right.
And then Yoda being, and this whole scene being a symbol of like, well, what's obvious? And what's, without all of the baggage of being an adult who is locked into these truths that must be, that the archives can't be wrong, what does a kid think? A kid thinks the most obvious thing. And because of the rigid structures that we build ourselves around ourselves as adults, sometimes the most obvious thing we reject because there's some other programming that has told us the most obvious thing can't be true. You know, and we get that obviously from Yoda's, you know, how wonderful the mind of the child is. And then just in terms of execution, that map reader is beautiful. The music that goes with it is beautiful. The whole scene just gives you this sort of feeling of like, man, I wish I could go to Yoda and a group of little wise Jedi children when I have a problem. So I think there's a lot going on in the scene, and it's maybe one of those ones that people kind of bump off of the surface of like, oh, they got blast shields. I saw somebody posting on social media like, remember that terrible scene in Attack the Clones where the toddlers are given lightsabers? What a garbage movie. And like, we could have that discussion, but that's bouncing off the surface instead of engaging with, why is this scene there? What is it telling us about Obi-Wan's journey?
This was on my list, and on my list for a lot of reasons. It's also it's a warm scene, and in a movie that you and I've already described as stiff at times, and we're conceding the ground on that criticism. This is not. It flows. It's really bouncy of a scene. The music is great. I think it pays off that. I'm really glad you mentioned it. It pays off the Yoda of Empire. I always refer to Yoda's theme as the sound of enlightenment. Yoda has a sense of home to him. When he shows up in The Last Jedi, it's a sense of guidance and safety, but also continued lessons. And I think that's what Yoda represents for a lot of us, especially maybe our generation, where we discovered him as he was dying for me, but others like you, a year or two ahead of me, in teaching in the swamp. And Phantom Menace. It's Yoda's part of a little bit of a cold reception to Anakin. We still love him. It's still Yoda, puppet or not, CGI Yoda or not. But this pays off the ideas that we grew up with. Thinking about Yoda. This is like meeting us at that spot. So I just like Yoda in the scene, and I like everything you're talking about the value of the lessons. And yes, Star Wars has its references to itself. I get that. Yeah, Luke had a blaster shield down, but this is saying why. This is like, why would Obi-Wan put that on him? Let's go back to the training. Let's go back what it means. This is going to come up, as you mentioned, it's going to come up again. This is a movie about knowledge and wisdom, and sometimes maybe knowledge versus wisdom. But that's always at play in so many of these scenes. What do you see and what do you feel? What do you know? What is true? What's a lie? That comes all through this movie, and here it is with these young ladies. I think it's a powerful scene. And yes, Liam the Shades is a great line. Number one,
it's a banger.
It's a great line. I want that on a shirt, maybe. Liam the Shades. But for me, you touched on it. This is Yoda, the greatest Jedi of all time, and this establishes what he thinks is most important, which is teaching the youngest of the generations coming into the Jedi Temple, the youngest of the generations coming into the Jedi Order. This is where he wants to be. This is what he feels is important. He's got the business meetings up top, but he's still coming down to the ground level to teach, and that plays out. We see that in the High Republic. We see that that's part of Yoda, and it would be there. Because of the Yoda that we know on Dagobah. So I love the scene in so many ways. And I want one of those little lightsabers. I think that'd be great.
Yeah. And obviously they're not, I think it's in the novelization. We learned that they're not full power. They're not, kids aren't putting each other's eyes out and like, another limb lost. I don't think
love that.
The vibe.
Love that. All right. Okay, Yoda and the Younglings, aka Liam the Shades. A great scene there. We're up to our number 8, my second choice, and the tough choice is already coming in. Do I want to play a little small, but just with a scene that I love, that is so much of the aesthetic of Attack the Clones that I've grown to love? Do I want to ramp it up again here early? I don't know. I'm going to start a little. I'm going to and go with me here, Joseph. I've tried to divide this all up as much as possible, because you could say there's the scenes kind of extended to different beats, but I'm going kind of the first moments here, and that is when Obi-Wan visits Kamino for the first time. I love the sequence, Tanway, Lama Su, and when I talk about the aesthetics of a 1950s noir, but also a 1950s Attack of the Clones, George is playing with those tropes and the concepts and the aesthetics, and now you have our detective Jedi flying to a mysterious, ocean dominated, water dominated planet, and the most aliens of aliens that have like walked out of the Roswell crash of the late 40s are now sitting with Obi-Wan, including with, extendo egg chairs to sit in. And it is pure 50 sci-fi. So I just love what it just brings to the movie. I love the mystery behind it. Now, years later, we know a little bit more about Sifo-Dyas. We also know what Sifo-Dyas was a typo that grew into the. You can get lost in the lore and have fun with the lore, but just going back to '02, I'm with Obi-Wan when you're like, what the hell's going on? And they're expecting him, and there's this great mystery. It worked for me, and I don't ever want to lose sight of the fact that in 2002, though I had my snarky criticism hat armor on, there's moments of the film that I got pulled in then, and they pull me in now. I love everything about it, and Ewan McGregor's comedy. Well, that's what we want. Like everything about it.
That's why I'm here. Yeah,
that's why I'm here. Yeah, there you go. That's why I just love it, and I think it for me kind of extends. I could extend the conversation to some of the moments where he's walking around. I don't. The stuff with Boba Fett and Jango Fett, I think, is part of a different sequence or its own thing, though it's wonderful as well. We can talk about it if that comes up. But even just the tour and seeing the clones, and remember at the time in '02, you're kind of like, all right, these are the stormtroopers. These are also, we've got Obi-Wan like finding out about the clones, and that's something we had lived with since 77 of him talking about the Clone Wars and all this stuff, and just Leia mentioned it. So we're kind of finally getting this payoff, which was just kind of cool as a Star Wars fan, and with it came this great mystery. So I love the look, I love the feel, I love the comedy, I love the slick back, rain-soaked Obi-Wan hair, and I love the everything going on in Kamino.
Yeah, no, I really agree with you. Like some of the other scenes, the diner, the seedy kind of seedy-ish Outlander club. There's plenty of places that kind of have this specific noir look. But you're right. This is a weird combination of noir and Plan 9 from Outer Space, just
right.
50s sci-fi. So that's I think part of what makes it so compelling and why I call it so pulpy. It's so direct in its interests and its references and mashing them up. There's a lot of Raymond Chandler, Philip Marlowe novels that deal with the casinos that were off the shore in California, and it almost has that vibe of,
Yeah.
So to see that sort of the rain slicked, the combination of the sort of the rain slick noir vibe with the 50s theremin spaceship with aliens in it. And now
who paid for the clones?
Will Obi-Wan sit in the big Campbell's soup spoon chair that lowers from the sky? It's so good. It's so good. And and Obi-Wan just trying to BS his way through it. And I think it is another scene where this there's a lot in the film that is about knowledge versus wisdom, but the Jedi, our heroes, are grasping around in the dark, almost to a comic level. We get the scene where Yoda and Mace say that the dark side is clouding their vision, and it's another scene where it's like it's funny and it's charming the way Obi-Wan just tries to bullshit his way through it, but it is also this reminder of like, our heroes are 8 steps behind the conspiracy. And I think that is one of the things that gives the film its mood and its energy of like, we are 10 years too late to this party, into this tragedy. And they're just a bunch of great individual beats that I love. It's another moment, I think, where the animation team gave a lot of personality. Everything is so clean and pristine. And I love the moment when Lamassu dusts a little something off their thigh.
Yes.
Yeah, and just the presentation of that place being so clean and pristine, and they're so proud of what they have sort of artificially made, also goes to a lot of what the film is dealing with, and talks about a lot of arrogance of all of these different factions in the galaxy who are maybe a little too proud of themselves.
You're right. There's a lot of moments where from Django to Lamassu, just with like, no, we make good product.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? We got the best clones in the galaxy.
Yeah, we're the best clone makers ever, and this is our best product ever. So lucky you. Yeah.
This is the iPhone 17 Pro of clones.
How many pixels do the clones' cameras have? Yeah.
That's amazing. There we go. I was going to say great choice. It's my choice. I guess
it is a great choice.
But we're up to our number 7.
This is truly painful. I should have got up 8 hours early to pick which things to talk about. All right. I'm gonna go for this. There are a couple controversial Anakin and Padme scenes. I'm gonna include an Anakin and Padme scene to make sure that my entire list isn't Obi-Wan scenes. I'm really torn between 2 different Anakin and Padme scenes, but I'm going to go to this one. I'm going to go to Anakin confesses to Padme about the slaughter of the Tusken people.
On my list too.
And I think partially, well, I will reveal later the other one I was tempted to share, but I think I'm drawn to this one because I think it's so important to Anakin's journey. And I think it's one of the scenes that gets poked fun at and is a disturbing scene. And I think it's meant to be disturbing and problematic from a certain point of view. So this is the scene where Anakin has got his mother's body back after he has slaughtered the clones. And he is in the garage that is very familiar to us from A New Hope. And he is trying to fix something. He's got the little speech to Padme about he's really good at fixing things, and how much easier it is when you're fixing things. And I think that is like, it's not subtle, because he's talking about something he couldn't fix and thinks he should have been able to, which is his mother dying. But how revealing that is to the character of Anakin and the psychology of Anakin and what is being told to us about how we are susceptible ourselves to making bad and dangerous choices. When Phantom Menace came out, it's cool that he's a mechanic. I guess he's good at lots of stuff. He can build droids and pod racers and that. In this moment, to me, it gives that such purpose of, here's a kid who grew up in awful circumstances, but he could disappear into this work, hobby, pastime of building things, fixing things, and a hobby that was binary. It's working or it's broken. And I have the power to change that. And it kind of relates to some of the politics talk that Anakin and Padme have, and even the lecture that Obi-Wan gives of Anakin doesn't have a lot of patience for things that require nuance to go from broken to working. He just wants the power himself to grab it and fix it. And who among us doesn't? Who among us does not want things to be binary and say, it's broken, but I can fix it myself without any of the mess or the nuance or the compromises or the fear. And I think that sort of rigidity in his psychology of, maybe there are ways to fix it, to fix problems, but I would have to trust other people. I wouldn't be able to have my hands on it myself. Or as Padme is trying to get through to him in this scene, some things you just can't fix. Some things are broken, and the only thing to do is deal with the sadness and move forward, maybe learn lessons. And he does have the horrific confession of, I slaughtered them all. And I think the more important part of the scene is the inability to accept that something is broken. And he's got the very clear line of I'll become so powerful that I can stop people from dying. I think if we had YouTube Star Wars channels in 2002, I think everybody would have been like, oh yeah, Padme's gonna die and he's gonna try to fix it. But I think one of the elements that is at play in this scene too is he's talking about becoming a powerful Jedi. He confesses to Padme in this violent, angry way that I think makes people feel like, why isn't Padme backing away from him and losing it? And there's a shot she's disturbed by it. But a part of it's a confession. He wants her to know, and I don't think he would tell Obi-Wan that he slaughtered all the Tuskens, and it's tied up in this idea of Jedi perfection, that he can become this perfect Jedi. And it ties back to what we were talking about. The Jedi have become kind of rigid in getting people tied up in needing to be perfect. So I think Padme's line is, to be angry is to be human, isn't like, no problem. You killed people. It's you have to allow yourself some nuance and some complexity. You're striving to just be a perfect Jedi who is all powerful and never makes any mistakes. And that is never going to happen. No one is all powerful. You can't fix all things, and you need to not just shove away your dark emotions, but be honest about them and work with them.
Well said on all of it. This is on my list and so many places to go. And yeah, it's one of those infamous scenes. And it's not that I think people misunderstand it. I think they see what's there and you can take from it what you want. And yeah, there's a lot of times you want to go, Padme, what are we doing here? But also that's about her character, this steadfast, wise, brave character. Also maybe like her daughter later on will not allow herself some of these personal connections, and she's got all the great Padme stuff going on as well. But I think I like how you described it. She is disturbed. This is also great advice. There's so much therapy in this scene. Not that this scene that Anakin's getting the answers, but you could just look at a lot of what's going on here and be like, yeah, this should disturb you. Yeah, this should disturb you because we all have these capabilities. And there's a lot of stuff in this movie, but a lot of stuff in this scene's about Anakin, where young men in the world, especially those who want to pursue women, you should take notes on what not to do or who not to be.
Yep.
But I think that's part of the point, as awkward as it can be. And you also talked about, I'm jumping around here, but the mechanic thing of it, it's very obvious in this scene, but you're right. It does take what was presented in 99 in The Phantom Menace and say, yeah, no, that was not just some silly little thing. You all made fun of the 3PO of it. Well, now he's building 3PO or repairing 3PO. Yeah, okay, maybe that was a little too connected for you. But this was done intentionally. George is building something, and this is one of those scenes that it isn't just hints of what's to come. We also have, before he goes off on the speeder, there's that great moment where the shadow kind of turns to Vader as he's talking to Padme, and to me playing off the Phantom Menace poster. So we know. Most people, you and I both have met people who didn't know what was happening with young Anakin, who were surprised at his fall. But it's even there. It's an important scene. It's a powerful scene, and it's a memorable scene. And I love what you're entering into the discussion about this quest for perfection, this quest for titles and status to maybe fix what you can't fix. Going to what Anakin, just what he is, and yeah, even go back to the Watto scene. That's when Watto realizes who it is because he fixes the picture in front of him. And that's when Watto goes, wait a minute. So that's Anakin. And when he can't fix everything, he hides behind this title. There's a little entitlement of him, but just the title, the access. Later on, we'll see when he's not, granted the rank of master, whether we agree he should be or not. Those are the things that the stuff on his resume that makes him feel just good enough to not actually pay attention to what he's doing wrong or what's going wrong or what he can't control. It's just he's just filling the holes to try to make himself feel full, and I think that's on display here. And I think what you're talking about in terms of what the Jedi are too. That's at stake with the Jedi, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Jedi Order's kind of seeking some sort of sterile perfection, sterile goals, and that are distant and stoic and not connected to what's actually going on, or not connected to what is real. And I think that's also what Padme sees here too, with the great. It's angry it's natural to be angry. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that can be clarifying, that can be motivating. But this is not. So, and shout out to the slain Tuscans, and it's troubling, and
It is.
it's very Star Warsy,
Mm-hmm.
but I love to see it. I think it's rich with emotional guideposts to either go towards or away from.
Yes. And I get if you just sort of watch this scene in isolation that it feels like maybe Padme should be more disturbed. But I think there's a couple things going on. I think it's a confession. He is telling her he did something awful, and then he immediately breaks down and says he should have been better than that. So he is not saying I did it and is right. I mean, he does. He shouts that, but then he immediately breaks down. And then she is comforting him after a confession that he would normally not give. I also just think it's to me, it's important to remember the context of their relationship, that Padme has met Shmi. We talked about the scene in Phantom Menace for our last episode where Padme comforts young Anakin, and Anakin says, I miss my mother. This is one of the main things she knows about this kid.
Mm-hmm.
And she has been taking him on a tour of Naboo, of her beautiful, idyllic childhood full of swimming with your friends in the legislative group and trying to guess the names of the birds we were singing. And everybody makes fun of the sand scene, and maybe we'll talk about it. But I think it has to be driving home to her like, oh, my childhood was really great compared to the horror that this guy went through. And then they go right from her childhood to his childhood, full of, slave owners and, conflict and fear. And I think that's in her mind too, of he didn't have the same perspective and privilege that I did.
I think it's great to point out that he wasn't like thumping his chest and going, hey, see, you know what I did? Pretty cool, huh?
Let me show you. Yeah.
Yeah, no. And it's, this is Padme who still sees good in him, and that's valuable to the Star Wars saga as well. All right, big one at number 7. All right, we're moving up to number 6, and I am going to go, oh my God, I'm going to go into some action.
All right.
And again, I'm stretching the definition. I'm not stretching the definition of scene, but I'm adding in a sequence. It's a lot. So if you want to pluck some things out and put them elsewhere, Joseph, I understand. I'm going with what I'm calling the Padme assassination attempt, the second one, because I love the opening of the film in terms of aesthetic too, just what Attack of the Clones is setting up to be. But I'm talking about from the time she goes to take a powder, take a sleep with R2 watching, and Obi-Wan and Anakin are kind of like, all right, let's talk about the events of the day. From that moment all the way up, I think maybe even to Zam Wessel being killed. But I think you could also stop this as, hey, let's go get a drink. At any point you want to stop it. But when I think of Attack of the Clones and I think of the aesthetic, the vibes, what they're trying to do, I do think of great action sequences. I think of great music from John Williams. I think there's some wonderful music that's this Coruscant, just the vibes of Coruscant that John's got going on here. I think Zam Wessel's a great character. So also, the prequels can sometimes take a hit maybe for being heavy on the exposition, having to get a lot of information out there. And we all don't have a Rick Ollier in our life to just say what's obvious. I think this scene's setting up a lot of stuff. We're catching up with Obi-Wan and Anakin, and we're getting all these moments. We're getting a lot of information. We're getting it with the early scenes with Padme and addressing Ki-Adi-Mundi, all that stuff. But we're just really setting up what their relationship has been like for 10 years. And we're really setting up their beliefs. And I think it plays out real well. I think it's a very realistic conversation that they're having. Mm-hmm. But then you got, poison caterpillars. I always forget the name. You're better answering that trivia question. Yeah, there you go. Point for you in that round. But from that moment on, it's just pure fun adventure. Obi-Wan going, you don't run into things. Oh, I'm going to jump out the window.
It's so good.
and the falling and the banter and you know, I like Anakin's like, oh, I'm sorry, I had to go find a speeder that was just the right speed with an open top. Like, what do you want from me here? And the again, the music is some of John's best in this film. I think Sam Wessel's a great character. I think the reveal of a changelon, or you know, I think all that stuff is really fun. And then just going straight down to Coruscant, a planet that we once read about, that we once didn't know how to pronounce. We meet the planet in Phantom Menace, but now we're down there in the Outlander Club, which is maybe its own thing. It's just a fun Star Wars sequence. It's full action. It's whiz bag. It's serial adventure. Anakin hanging on for dear life on Sam Wessel's pod, the shortcuts, the going through electricity. It just uses everything. And it is one of those scenes that keeps with George's kind of thoughts of you could turn the sound down or maybe just have the music playing and you get what's going on. So I love it. Break it up as you want, but I couldn't separate.
It's great. It's a whole sequence, set piece from beginning to end, and a ton of, like, I think, great scenes within it. I love that the section you picked is bookended, kind of like two scenes between Anakin and Obi-Wan. And the first scene where Padme is sleeping and Anakin has set her up to be used as bait. It's one of the I think really great shots, moods. It's so dreamy and sad and slow of, you know, Anakin confessing that he's having these nightmares about his mom, and Obi-Wan's sad sort of dreams pass in time, and then segueing into this very, very real world political conversation, this real world thing that is, I think, always a threat to democracy and is really explicitly, deeply harming us right now, of corporations being given too much power, and the wall between politicians and corporations broken down. And, you know, Obi-Wan talking about how, well, I think, you know, I found that the politicians will just do whatever they're told by the people who are giving them the most money. And Anakin's like, oh boy, here we go. It's another of your Bernie Sanders speeches. Obi-Wan is it can just sound like, you know, background noise, but it is also essential to what is actually going on in the film and in the larger political story, and it's got a great mood to it. As you said, I love Obi-Wan, you know, having that conflict with Anakin of like, that's we're not here to solve the mystery, and like, well, crap, I got, you know. He's a little on the impulsive side too. And the whole Outlander Club scene is fantastic. I do like the comedy of the Elon Sleaze-Begano, but it's one of the great Obi-Wan moments of Anakin wants to charge at everything, and that's really very binary. Like, do we need to beat that guy? Well, then let's run at the front door and cut off his head. And Obi-Wan sort of like, I will just make myself a target, and I will use my senses, and I will know, I will, you know, be smarter than just running at everybody in the bar going, are you a changeling? So that's great. The sudden turnaround is great. The get a drink delivery is great. One of the other moments in the Outlander Club that I think is important to building the narrative of Attack the Clones is weird, but it's when the character Haiti Gofi, I believe is the character's name, played by Fiona Johnson, also the woman in red in The Matrix, when she also looks Anakin up and down like he's a cool drink of water. Like, sometimes people are like, why does Padme fall for Anakin? It's like, the film reminds us again and again that the whole galaxy is like, God damn, Anakin. You are an attractive young man. So that is there in this scene as well. There's a lot of work going on in the Outlander Club scene.
Yeah, and like I said, maybe could have. You're right. I think I chose the whole set piece, but I was watching this morning. I'm like, once this starts going, once they're having their conversation, and again, there's stuff too. There's stuff that Anakin says that, you know, it's kind of fun to look at and go, not fun, but just be like, oh, Anakin, no, don't set up cameras to watch it. Like, what are you doing, buddy? But like, that's just what's going on with him. George is building to the fall. And as someone who kind of in 2005 was like, what? I mean, Padme made him fall. Like, I want him just to be strong and kill people. This is all the groundwork is being set up of his good intentions mixed with his obsessions and his his attachments, and his sense of power. I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to overpower the situations. And yeah, it's weird. She didn't want me to film her. I don't know what's going on. Like all that stuff is kind of at play. But once that picks up and goes, I couldn't. I had trouble just stopping it. And Outlander Club is its own thing too. But there you go. So that's my choice.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think, maybe we'll talk about more scenes, but I think I think there's a desire for a sweeping romance, and I think some people find Anakin and Padme to be a sweeping romance. But for me, just reading the text, I think it is a difficult relationship. She sees this damaged, charming, attractive, kind person that she knows is in there that she wants to help come out, and he does not know how to handle his emotions or talk to women, and he loves her, but I think in a possessive way. And even in this scene, he tells there's nothing subtle about it if you just read the text. If you don't get into this is how George should have written it and engage with what's on the screen. In this scene that you picked, Anakin says to Obi-Wan, like, it's intoxicating to be around her again. Like, he doesn't even, realize, I mean, that's a blatant thing to say to his master who knows, like, hey, you should not be into this, or if you are attracted to her, you should handle it better. And he just doesn't know. He's not making an effort to handle it well,
Yeah. 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 Come on, Annie. All right. We have reached the top 5 with our 5th overall choice. What do you have?
Okay. Oh, this is very difficult. You know what? I'll go with this one because it is a big one that I want to make sure we include, and that is a scene that we've talked about before in an entire episode that you can go check out. It is Dooku manipulates Obi-Wan. One of the things that is great about Attack of the Clones is the quality time with Sir Christopher Lee. So good as Dooku. I think such a great pivot from Maul of this sort of just terrifying animal anger that you see in Phantom Menace, a guy who just blatantly looks like Satan, to a lot more of what's going on in Attack of the Clones. Obviously, Christopher Lee is famous for playing Dracula, and playing Dracula in particular in the iteration of the Dracula character that is the gentleman monster. He does awful things behind the scenes, but he presents is charming and elegant. And that is translated to Dooku of like, I'm not this obvious, snarling Satan looking guy. I'm somebody who says all the right things that you should trust. And that's so much of the plot of even the Jedi saying like, well, he was a former Jedi. And like, look how nice his politics are. Look how nice his presentation is. He can't be a baddie. And I think that is perhaps best represented in the media scene he has, where he is trying to manipulate Obi-Wan with half-truths. In a film that is about knowledge and wisdom, he is giving Obi-Wan just enough knowledge to manipulate Obi-Wan. And you and I have talked about the scene, but I continue to think this is Dooku kind of playing with his options. A Sith always wants to find an apprentice and get rid of their master. They're supposed to. And so I think Dooku has heard all sorts of great things about Obi-Wan from Yoda, from Qui-Gon. And he's like, this guy's actually got close to figuring out what's going on. I'll poke him a little bit and see if there's any chance that he would join me. But also, I'm going to give him just the right information that if he rejects me and he brings this information back to the Jedi Council, it will get them paranoid as hell. It will get them chasing their shadows, doubting themselves, going, is there a Dark Lord named Darth Sidious? And is he in charge of the Senate? And should we have known? It's so giving him that information, pushes on the pressure points we saw in the Phantom Menace, where they're talking about like the Sith couldn't have returned without us knowing. It pushes on that pressure point of arrogance and certainty that the Jedi have in themselves. And then just the great acting between Ewan McGregor and Christopher Lee, and the way it's shot of Obi-Wan slowly turning in a circle and Dooku circling around him has this great play. This is a scene about perspectives and what perspective do you trust in. No one's perspective stays stationary in this scene.
Absolutely. Yeah. At this point, we should just edit in our 2-hour discussion on our ForceCenter scene by scene episode. This has long been one of my favorite scenes, and my what I've taken from it has changed over the years. It's all kind of the same pot, and you're describing it so wonderfully. And I'm glad it's. I knew it was going to be on our list. It was just a matter of when, right? But for me, as a fan, an original trilogy kid, and Luke with a green lightsaber on top of Jabba's sail barge was one of the reasons I fell in love with this. Here comes this series of films, episodes 1, 2, and 3, questioning those heroes in a way that the fandom still debates or still is disgusting, and I think sometimes still gets a little wrong what George was intending. And here comes this character. And remember, I'm one of the people that's in a bar at Chili's in Northridge going, and he named him Dooku? What are we doing here? I hope there's a documentary about the people versus George Lucas that one day gets this all down on paper. From that guy to also realizing, a little bit more Christopher Lee and his background and the reasons for the name and what they were doing, to at one point I had this realization of like, man, in this kind of prequel series, but particularly this film, Dooku's the only one kind of telling the truth. And I love you using the term half truths is accurate to describe it. But like, this is kind of the only one that's just saying like, Obi-Wan, like, here's what's going on, man. And that just kind of tweaked my brain in a way where it was like, but the Jedi, right? The heroes, the lightsabers, and George is not taking that away from them, right? Which is another discussion, longer point. But to have Dooku, this former Jedi, who's saying some things that make sense, and in a movie that's about lies, deception, and knowledge, and wisdom, and secret plots, and Phantom Menace is continuing. Like, here's this one guy going, "Hey, I'll tell you the truth. In fact, you want to join up? Maybe we could win." And I still I come down on the line of like, yeah, like you said, I think Dooku's always looking for options there, even though he's in line with Sidious, and we know where that takes him. I kind of think if Obi-Wan says, yeah, let's do it for Qui-Gon, it might have happened. I just love what the scene does. It asks so many questions. I love your breakdown of it being in this constant motion, shadows and light, and I love Obi-Wan being like, Qui-Gon would never join you, but I don't know if Obi-Wan believes that in that moment. It's such a fun scene. It's a wonderfully performed scene, and in a movie and a trilogy that gets maligned for its performances, this one absolutely is spot on. This one is perfection, and Christopher Lee just from where he begins to where it would be difficult to, secure release, like everything about him is just on fire, on point. And the conversation around Dooku, remember for years, I used to always make references to this, but there was some discussion about Dooku being kind of the original rebel. Mm-hmm. And there's, from a certain point of view, some truth to that, because as we've learned, he's right about a lot of the things he's seeing. Mm-hmm. He's right about a lot of things he has problems with, but what he does with that and what he's seeking, and Christopher Lee describing him as kind of this amoral, apolitical, power-thirsty, thinks only for himself guy. Like, there's some great truths to this character, great questions to hopefully answer within your soul about what this character is doing and asking. So anyways, go watch our episode. I forget all the things we said in it, but it's good.
But I think we said them shorter here. Amazing that we can still do that every once in a while. Yeah, I think it's endlessly fascinating to break down, because it is somebody who shares a lot of truths, but you have to say at the end of the day, but what does the character want? What is your instinct?
Right.
He is saying facts that are true, but what does the character want? And my final thing to say about it is, I really do feel like it's a scene where Dooku's like, Obi-Wan. Everybody rates this guy. Mm-hmm. He's got a high Yelp rating on Jedi. And then I think I think at the end Dooku's like, nah, what the hell is everybody talking about? It will be difficult to secure your release. Really does just it's a burn, obviously. Also he starts the scene with like, oh my gosh, I don't know why this happened. It's so bad. Like, I guess you'll stay here then. It really is like, I threw you a line, and now I think you're just crap. I'm not on the Obi-Wan hype train, it says Dooku at the end of this scene, I think.
It's one of my favorite line deliveries. That's why we celebrate it, but it's just like, it's Dooku at this, man, you're a prick.
You really are. Like,
I mean, because he's going back into the charade, right? He's going back into playing the game. Mm-hmm. Well, all right. I'm not gonna be able to get you out of this one. Sorry, buddy, you didn't take my offer. Mm-hmm. Anyways, we could talk for a long time about this scene. But there it is. At number 5, we're in the top 5, and now you put some pressure on me because this is definitely going to be high. And do I want to go? Do we? How about I still go with action? I'm gonna bring in some action, and we're going back to Camino, and I do think we need to celebrate Jango Fett versus Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I'm just kind of talking about the Camino fight. Yeah, I'd love to, spend a good hour talking about the seismic charges a little bit later on. But I'm kind of talking about even including the pre-fight. Even Tanway bringing Obi-Wan to say hi to young Boba. Even the stinky fart of the reaction that Boba Fett has, right? The famous lore behind that scene. From that to the actual fight, we keep talking about the aesthetic of Attack of the Clones and what it is. A rain-soaked fight between the detective and the suspect he's trying to track down. That's amazing, and everything about it. The Jango getting a leg up here and there with his tech. Obi-Wan using his skills and his plucky behavior to just kind of get through. Even an Obi-Wan kick, which I was watching this morning, going, "Oh man, he's going to try that on Grievous too," and that's going to hurt. The headbutt, it's violent. Love Boba Fett's reactions. Love him just kind of cackling his dad is kicking ass in front of the starship that the galaxy loves that's on display there. I just love it, man. I love it all the way down to Obi-Wan kind of sliding off the edge and getting back in, and the fight comes to a close, at least round 1. I think it should be celebrated, and it was highly anticipated. The use of Jango Fett might have been controversial at times back in the day of again the connected nature of things, but it's got to make sense, and it adds so much to the character of Boba Fett to explore later on, as I think we get to do both in Clone Wars and the series and beyond. And again, we're here for the important stuff, the poignant stuff, but also for the cool stuff. And I wasn't on a playground in 2002, but I got to imagine if I was. If it was 1983 and that fight had come out, I would be reenacting that with my friends on the playground. You get to be Jango, I'll be Obi-Wan. We'll switch the roles tomorrow. Let's have some fun. I love this fight.
Yeah, no, and then the lore gets built upon that a lot of the Mandalorian weapons are designed to counter Jedi, and you kind of see that in the way Jango fights Obi-Wan. The fight scene is great fun. The aesthetic of it is great fun. I think Obi-Wan's got some good sort of action moments. Oh, that's not good. Kind of attitude, when he realizes what Jango has done, tied him to the rope and dragging him. But I think to me, the spot rewatching scenes and remembering how much this film is about this concern of arrogance. It's explicit with the Yoda's conversation with Obi-Wan of like that Anakin is arrogant, and Yoda's saying like that's a problem that's happening with a lot of Jedi, even the older, wiser ones, and gives Obi-Wan the stink eye. But then when Obi-Wan reports what he thinks is going on, Yoda's like, get him, bring him here. And so there's almost this like setup of Obi-Wan's competency as a Jedi of like, hey, we kind of expect a well-regarded Jedi Knight like you that you should be able to just grab this bounty hunter and bring him in. And the great dialogue scene between Obi-Wan and Dooku, which I think is up there for best scenes in this film too, is this real sort of macho, arrogant standoff of like, they're not literally circling one another as much as Obi-Wan and Dooku, but they are like, Jedi, bounty hunter, your clone army good? Yeah, it's real good. Everything about it is that sort of like, this is the build of the fight. They're not quite cutting wrestling promos as you would talk about. Yeah, but there's that energy of they're sizing each other up, and that it is again that sort of like everything is being said politely, but these guys hate each other based on what they stand for. Jango Fett doesn't like principle, Jedi going around the galaxy all righteous, telling other people what to do. Obi-Wan thinks, bounty hunters are so immoral, thinks this guy is a killer and a coward who's hiding from him, and to see that kind of built up into a cool fight, in a fight where they're both like, you both look like idiots at points in this fight, in terms of like, it's a well-matched fight, right? And I don't know, there's something about it. The fight's really cool, but it is also sort of like almost the truth of that kind of arrogance, that kind of sizing each other up before a fight. And then, the fighting's often not great for either side.
No, indeed. Yeah, no, it's not quite wrestling promos, but on a lot of wrestling shows, they have those bad skits before matches where so and so just runs into so and so in the locker room, and they're just like, and I love those scenes because they're bad. And my old pal Kathy Kelly will come in and ask him a question. It's that scene. It's setting up the main event there, or they're kind of the undercard. But yeah,
setting up the rivalry. Yeah,
setting up the heat. It's great. All right, that's my number 4. Django versus Obi-Wan. There's more to them, of course, but our number 3 choice.
Okay, my number 3. Oh man, is this ever difficult? But we have talked about a good amount of scenes, so yeah, Adele. How many do I have left?
You have 2 more.
Okay, great. Okay, I am gonna go to another fight that I do think has weight and meaning to it, and that is Yoda versus Dooku.
Yes,
it's hard
indeed.
not to discuss this scene. It is obviously a fight. Many people think it's a great fight. I think there's some people our age who still dislike this fight. But I think I love the way it's structured, that it doesn't go right to lightsabers. I think in the context of the way Star Wars was released in the year 2002, people had 22 years to imagine. Does Yoda ever use a lightsaber? What would that be like? So it is structured to build up to it. But I think sort of relieving yourself of that sort of that time perspective, because a lot of people obviously encounter this not having watched Empire Strikes Back and then waiting 22 years to watch Attack the Clones. If the scene isn't about building the audience's anticipation up for Yoda using the lightsaber, I think it really is about these two characters kind of testing each other, and it is like a little bit of a chess match of Dooku letting the mask drop a little bit, knowing that, okay, I've bullshitted my way through this. I'm not going to be able to quite bullshit Yoda, my old master. He is more intuitive. He is going to see through me. So, and I got a pile of Jedi just kind of over there. So I'm just going to, show him how powerful I am. And it's like the most honest Dooku is, I think, in the film of like, I've become more powerful than any Jedi. Like, you see the mask drops of the gentleman monster, and you see a little bit of that monster who just wants power and wants to prove to this paternal figure that he's more powerful and that his way is right. This has just begun. So many great lines in the scene. But I love that it is Yoda being like, yeah, you don't know everything. Like, especially with like the absorbing the lightning. And there's a sense that Dooku has a little like, oh, I was trying to kind of shove my power in my master's face, and I didn't know he could do that.
Right.
He didn't know I know how to do the lightning thing. I didn't know he could just kind of absorb it and make it go away. Building up to the this contest can only be decided by skills with a lightsaber. And then I think one of my favorite things about it is Yoda flying around, screaming, all the impressive gymnastics, and then when it's over, the calling the cane to him with the Force in the the slow walk away of pain, and it's just this great like Yoda does not seek or want action. He does it when it's action adventure. A Jedi craves not these things. He does it when he has to, and it really hurts his back at this point.
Indeed. Great choice on my list as well. I love your point. I think it's so true of this Dooku character who has been calm, serene, gentleman monster, as you describe. And I love the fact that he's like, I'll show you. His soul mentor shuts up, and it's what's at the core of all of us. We're all a pouty 8-year-old if we're not careful enough, and I'll show you is a great way, and it's got classic lines. Even our skills with a lightsaber line is wonderfully clunky in a George Lucas-y way, but it is a great line, and it's fitting for the character, and I love everything about it, and this is you and I, 11 years on doing this, I know we've said this before, but I started saying this years ago because I could think of some specific people and faces in my life who would deny loving this scene when I was there, man. when you all stood up and clapped when Yoda came around. Don't lie to me. We can talk about what works in this movie or what doesn't. But if you're a Star Wars fan and you're denying like, oh, then Yoda started bouncing around. When that shadow comes around the corner, we've just seen Obi-Wan and Anakin get their butts kicked. And Yoda comes around. And for us in our generation, I'd love to get the perspective of a 9-year-old in 2002 or a 12-year-old in 2002 who had just also seen The Phantom Menace. But like you said, we've been waiting, talking, dreaming, and we're finally getting to see Master Yoda. They make reference early in the film, right? Lightsaber skills of Yoda, Anakin, you could be just as good as him, blah, 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 the fun banter. It's setting you up for what's coming. And then in typical, I think, George Lucas, in the height of his prequel powers way, it's like, all right, you're going to see Yoda fight. He's going to have a cute little lightsaber. But unlike those kids ones, it's full power. And then he's going to start jumping and around and screaming like he's Kermit, Gonzo, and every Muppet having a fight. It's going to be this technological achievement. It's going to be a little wacky. It's going to be a little silly, but it's going to be all fun and Star Wars action. And you know what? You might not like it, but I'm making this choice. And our creative team is making this choice. And it is a technological achievement. It's something that could not have been done. And as much as, you know, the Phantom Menace Yoda puppet is an interesting puppet. I different conversation, but I could see why George was like, yeah, we need to find another way. We need to find another way, because otherwise Yoda would look like Gonzo flying in one of the Muppet movies. You know, it would not have worked. And everything about it to the it is not just a joke for a joke's sake. It is a character beat, as you just described so wonderfully, of Yoda going, all right, great, and now give me my cane. It's funny, but it's also, it means everything you just said. So and Dooku runs away like a little coward, because that's what the dark side does. Love the sequence. It's a timeless fight.
Yeah, and going back to sitting there in the theater in 2002, yes, I sat next to my friend Doug Shaw, and it's one of my favorite theater memories ever of him literally pounding his thigh. He must have been bruised in the morning as it built up to the lightsabers were coming, and the whole audience like, yes, do it. And the explosion when Yoda uses the Force to bring his saber to his hand is like, one of my favorite theater memories ever. But going back to 2002, and some of George's not elegant exposition, some Rick Ollier lines, in the middle of this amazing fight, you fought well, my old Padawan.
Right.
And the information gets dropped in a moment that's, personal. But it that was one of the things is like, I kept, I was thinking about Attack the Clones while all my friends were hating on it. I was poking fun at parts of it too. But being like, oh, what does this mean? How does Yoda feel that he has a Padawan that fell to the dark side? And this chain of relationship between, Yoda to Dooku, to Qui-Gon, to Obi-Wan, all that stuff is fascinating to me to think about back in the day, and was brand new and dropped in this fight.
Yeah, no, absolutely was. And that like, doing that thing. Yeah, I love it. Which is why I also love when Wang mentions that to Ahsoka. You come from a long line of rebellious Jedi.
Yeah. And one other thing real quick of like, because I know people debate like, well, this film is also about attachment, explicitly about, Anakin. And sometimes the question comes up like, well, should Yoda have just let that piece of machinery crush Obi-Wan and Anakin and cut off Dooku's head and ended the Clone Wars? And I think for me, it isn't about attachment. It's about, if a Jedi has a choice between capturing the bad guy and saving life, the Jedi choose life. And I think it's a great thing that's wrestled with in the Kenobi series of like, yes, the Sith need to be stopped, and sometimes the Jedi have to, do violence. But the point of a Jedi is to protect and preserve life. That's our like number one thing. And so I think that's a moment of, Dooku runs away like a coward because he can't finish the fight. And Yoda prioritizes life in the moment and dealing with the bigger problem later.
Indeed. All right, the pressure's on because it's our number 2 choice, my final choice of the day. And I have a couple of options. I could think, well, he definitely would pick up that for number 1. But what fun is that?
Yeah,
I'd like to confuse your choices at number 1. I'd like to put some stress on you. We talked about it for years. I have a personal journey with the scene. Wearing the Brian Ward Dexter's Diner shirt. My number two choice is Dexter's Diner.
Yeah.
The tiny 3-minute-ish little sequence that you and I have staked an entire podcast identity on. Maybe mostly me, but recently you and I were at a bar, and this guy, I finally got to bring this up with you there, explaining our show to someone, and that is again Obi-Wan Kenobi seeking wisdom, the intersection of knowledge and wisdom, the cold, sterile Jedi Order. We don't have the deleted scenes, at play a lot of times, but there is this the Jedi robots are like, we ain't got nothing. Jocasta Nu, as we know, is going to be later on. It's not there. He goes to his buddy Dex, but this is it's everything I think we do here from my perspective of. We love Star Wars, and Star Wars is silly, and Star Wars is wild, and sometimes you should maybe question it or make fun of it or go, what is that? Is that a 50s diner? But if you are willing to look beyond it and you're willing just to let this franchise into your heart and soul, you'll find so much stuff there that is not just poignant and powerful, but can enrich your own life and your own perspective on the world. And I think our episode on breaking down Dexter's Diner was that, because I've had so many conversations with people who are just like, right, that's the worst. That's a joke of a scene, right? I'm like, you're missing so much, and it's your right to not like it. It's your right to not engage with it. I don't need you all to, but if you again allow yourself to, you'll find so much there beyond Dex's fallen pants, beyond a flow robot serving 1950s Java juice. But that's also part of the big point there. I'll let you maybe explain more about that too. It's more than just the aesthetic. It's the purpose behind this 50s diner. But it truly is, to me, one of the linchpin scenes in the prequels, the intersection of knowledge and wisdom. Obi-Wan seeking out a friend, Obi-Wan getting the truth that cannot be learned from the Order, which is not an indictment of the Order. It's just a question of what the Order has become. But it's also about community. It's also about your feet on the ground. And also, for what it's worth, I think it's adorable scene. Like, Dex has a mustache. He's Mel from Mel's Diner. It's George Lucas of American Graffiti fame. And I know that was Where Were You in '62, but it's a 50s diner. It's that vibe. It is the gumshoe detective on the streets. It is the guy giving him the information, and it is one of the great voices in Star Wars from Dexter himself. The scene is everything to me. It's so important to not just this movie, but what George was doing in the prequels, and perhaps what George was always trying to say overall about everything. So I'll let you say more, but I just love this scene. And I love Brian Ward's obsession with the scene and Dexter. We talked about that on a previous episode of Blank is Why We Love Star Wars. And shout out to all those who love Dex.
Yeah, and the Dex love, I think, has grown. I think in some ways this scene is almost there's the I Hate Sand and the Anakin Padme relationship, but this scene was almost the Jar Jar of Attack of the Clones. This was the scene that could not be accepted, and I think a lot of people came from it I think not liking it because it was too blatantly a 50s diner and it felt too much like the real world and impinged on the escapism of Star Wars. And I think that's partially true where Lucas let some things in the prequels float closer to real world things. And I think the original trilogy does feel more like a total fantasy. But I also think some of that for people our age was we were just too young and we didn't understand the parts of the original trilogy as like, that is actually pulled from the real world,
Right.
That council meeting at the Death Star where they absolved, where they wiped out the Senate, that was actually pulled from the real world. That was an actual boring business meeting between adults, all sorts of little examples in that. The Rebels on Hoth are a struggling nonprofit that need to change offices immediately. There's real world stuff in the original trilogy too, but I know for a lot of people they just bounced on the 50s diner, and I did a little bit too, but I liked everything else.
Sure.
So for me, I want to start just from the emotional of Obi-Wan. Part of what we're doing is we're going on this detective journey with Obi-Wan, but we're getting to see who Obi-Wan really is as a character. And this is one of the scenes that really unlocked the character of Obi-Wan to me, of like, he's a charming, curious person who loves in the way that Anakin describes that Jedi are supposed to love, of be interested in people, care about all people. And you get the vibe of like, Oh, Obi-Wan comes in here sometimes not with a problem,
Yeah.
but just to have a drink and, banter about politics. And does Obi-Wan have a favorite Nunaball team? I think he's probably against sports and betting, maybe, but likes debating it with,
Yeah.
there's a real sense of just like he is a man of the people. He is curious and engaged and empathetic and has friends and curiosity about the world. So
Mm-hmm.
that I think that was part of what struck me about the scene of just really seeing Obi-Wan like that and almost a little bit of a slice of his day to day. But in terms of like what it means to the themes and to the noir, we talked about a lot in that episode, and you can take a listen. There's the history in noir stories of the rich and the powerful are trying to control everything and lie to you, and that is what is happening in Attack of the Clones. The Dooku is a signifier of wealth. The Senate is being controlled by money. The people that have formed the Separatists are the Separatists are an organization of Amazon, Google, Apple.
Mm-hmm.
That's all who
Mm-hmm.
signed up to the Separatist revolution. There's a lot about the sort of the moneyed controlling, and like in the Philip Marlowe novels, the Raymond Chandler novels, they're about LA, all of the institutions being corrupted, the police and the mayor's office. So Marlowe, who's this rat who couldn't make it, got drummed out of being a cop because he's too honest. He goes around and talks to real people, and he figures out what the rich people are up to by talking to a person on the street or a librarian or like the little
Mm-hmm.
people, or some guy who lost a betting, who was gambling and got beat up for it, and figuring out from the little people what's really going on. And I think the point of the diner, the point of Dexter being extremely coded as working class, is that's where the real knowledge is, and that's where the machinations of the rich and powerful will be exposed by slowly putting together the knowledge of the real people who really know what's going on the ground. And that manifests in Dex's wisdom about, yeah, the cloners are nice to you depending on how big your pocketbook is
Mm-hmm.
about greed and money and power. But the thing that you and I are obsessed with is, he knows the little funny marks on the side of the Kaminoan saber dart, and he says I would think you Jedi would know the difference between knowledge and wisdom, which I do think is an absolute theme statement of the entire film. And it ties back to the scene we're talking about with Yoda and the younglings of what do you think you know, because it's written down, it's known, it's in a library, a program droid says it's true, versus what look closer, trust your instincts, trust uh, the marks, trust the things that you can read. um, in
Mm-hmm.
the entire plot of the Clone Wars, it's a weird plot, but they're kind of trying to unravel this mystery of, well, who is trying to kill Padme, who's opposing this bill, and the Jedi have so much of the knowledge that they need, and they're not applying wisdom. I always think of like knowledge is facts, wisdom is how you correlate the facts and say, even though these facts shouldn't add up to this wisdom, they must, because it is clear once you put A, B, and C together, even though they should not equal this, they do. And I think that is so explicitly at work in the Dexter's Diner scene.
Well said as always. And yeah, I think one of my final big points is you're absolutely right. This is where, and we got to get it a little bit more in some of the novels with Obi-Wan, but this is where Obi-Wan goes to hang. And you just can't envision Mace there. Mace would be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Kiadi Monday would be asking for flavored ice drinks. Like I get, like on all the stuff that Jonathan Jackson Miller did so well with that book. But this is Obi-Wan. This is the jokes that we made. Remember, I'm going into Attack of the Clones with my friend saying, no, Obi-Wan he's a barfly, man. Like, don't you see? He loves going around getting drinks. And then you have the moment earlier of like, let's go get a drink, which I nudged my friend.
Mm-hmm.
But this is more proof that he likes a good pie, maybe a burger and some fries. So a Nuna burger and fries and a Yip Tip burger and fries. And it makes me just love Obi-Wan more and love this sequence. So we can talk about this scene a lot. We will again. But I love it.
Yeah. Knowledge and wisdom. Yep.
knowledge, and wisdom. All right, this is it. As expected, we're running into some overtime because we are finally up to our number one choice. Take us home, sir. I've made it difficult because that's a great scene.
Yeah, I had to kind of rack my brain of what is the right scene that's just a great scene to watch, but does also kind of tie things together. And
Mhm.
I am going to say the sad Jedi Council, or the sad meeting in the Jedi Council room toward the end of the movie, with Yoda's famous line, "The shroud of the dark side has fallen, begun. The Clone Wars have." Um, I think
Love that.
that scene is great. Because of the kind of the back and forth, Obi-Wan isn't actually saying, he says I have to admit, without the clones, it wouldn't have been a victory, meaning just like we would have all been killed on Geonosis.
Mm-hmm.
And Yoda's not having it.
Mm-hmm.
Victory, you say.
Mm-hmm.
I think the scene, it leads into the montage that we love of the clone troopers,
Mm-hmm.
marching out in display, this rigidity, the sad Bail Organa fist punch on
Mm-hmm.
the railing of the balcony. But I think there's so much to analyze in a Star Wars movie about what expectations you bring in. What was the action like? Was the acting good? Did the special effects add, or did they take away all this? And this scene, I think, brings you back to what is this film about? Knowledge, wisdom, arrogance. But
Mm-hmm.
the plot is some separatists have gathered with legitimate concerns, secretly backed by a bunch of tech titans and money who want to be unchained to do whatever they want. Uh, they've kind of raised a fist to the galaxy. How does the Senate respond? Senate could say, "Fair enough, we'll draw it up, and you go your own way." Or they can negotiate in good faith with the people who have righteous complaints, and or they could give in to fear. And the motivating thing of this entire plot is Padme is leading the opposition to the act to create a military. And Padme is right through the entire film. Padme is the voice of
Mm-hmm.
truth and reason. Democracy is messy, nuanced, complicated, but it has to be a pursuit to figuring out what is the best for the most amount of people. And so the thing that's going to be worse is to escalate the conflict by raising a fist back to the separatists. It isn't defense, it's going on the offense. We have to stop this. And everything that happens in the film unravels from the fact of we can't have this reasonable woman convince too many people to
Yeah.
de-escalate and have a
Mm-hmm.
rational conversation. She's also right about Dooku being at the
Yeah.
center of the plot, and nobody listens to her. And I feel like this scene is the culmination. I think
Mm-hmm.
Yoda in this film is drawn back to being the one who is a little bit more wise and intuitive, and troubled with the arrogance in the Jedi Council, troubled with the way the Senate is going, and the one who delivers us the truth of the fact that Padme's opposition to the military act was derailed. The fact that the galaxy willingly voted to give more powers to Palpatine, willingly voted to raise an army when they haven't had one in generations, willingly voted to give in to fear is a tragedy, and is the galaxy falling in exactly the same way Anakin is going to fall in the next
Mm-hmm.
film, by giving in to fear and patting themselves on the back for how powerful they are while actually giving into fear. And I think Yoda's incredibly sad with the dark, beautiful sky, the shroud of the dark side
Yeah.
has fallen, begun the Clone Wars have, is a reminder that this film is a tragedy.
Yes, absolutely. This is a great way to end our list here because this is, the second part of a trilogy, and the book tells you, the rules tells you that's got to be the dark one, that's got to be the sad one, it's got to be a little lost, and yeah, I think that's the reason it kind of works. Sometimes those rules I think do apply, and this is the moment that kind of drives it home. Again, going to what I was saying earlier about the Dooku and Kenobi scene. Even though I might have been aware of, Empire's the darker one, and I'm carrying that into chapter 2 of this trilogy. It's still the Jedi I grew up with. It's still I'm here for the action. I'm here for the clones attacking. I think I'm Obi-Wan in this moment. That was a close one. Whew, right? Nah. I mean, yeah, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad Nexu and all the other clones and everyone didn't get or you weren't killed by the Geonosians there. But no, fool, this hurts. This is not right. And I think that Yoda delivery of that line is up there. It's not quite to say, but it's up there with the same energy behind him telling Luke, "You will be, you will be." It's still there for me, and it reminds me that Yoda is, at his correct place at the center of all this, good and bad of just knowing what's happening. So it does put this period on this film to say, yeah, a lot of fun, wild adventure. It ain't looking good.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how you say it's not just about Anakin, it is about the galaxy as well, because this is the story that George is telling, and he's analyzing not just this fall. It is Anakin's story 1 through 6 in all the ways, as George has come out later to say, and George can say those things when he wants at different points in his life, as we know. But I think it's true. But also, this is him analyzing. Yeah, I picked up the story with Nixon in his third term and the war still raging, and all these kind of what ifs. And I wanted to analyze how we got there, but also tell you, George is telling us how you get there. And it's frighteningly relevant. Was and maybe always will be, and why we should always take these lessons. So I think it's all there. And it's also just, again, keep talking about the aesthetic, keep talking about the vibe of this movie, the sunset, the big sigh of relief from this close call, and it's still not enough. We still got ways to go. And that takes us perfectly into the Clone Wars. And at the time, we didn't know that, Revenge of the Sith wasn't going to spend too much time with that conflict. It was going to pick it up at the end, but we got this great series to explore with it. And I think that sets us up perfectly for what is about to happen and what the Jedi are going to do. We're going to take rank in this army. Because that's what heroes should do, right? We're going to fight for what's good. And that was the thing that put our foot on the banana peel that was in front of us. So love it. Great way to end our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And I'd like to think if the scene didn't cut right after Yoda says, "Begun the Clone Wars have," I think he says, "Listen to Padme, we should have."
Yes, to Padme. Well, there we go. Some close calls if you got them. I did have a couple down. We put a lot up. Yoda and the clones arriving right up until the end of the sequence. The sequence kind of ends when they go chase Dooku. That kind of starts everything else in that sequence. But as I've mentioned before, watching that and just kind of, we're a couple years removed from Saving Private Ryan, and I mean that in the sense of the big epic battles done with a modern style. And this was kind of George. There's so many great shots in the battle there, the Battle of Geonosis, and the zooms in and the shot of the and I think it kind of begins when, I was watching this morning of like, speaking of heroes, yes, Yoda's arrived. Round of survivors of Perimeter Create. We're going. We got to fight. We got a Star Wars battle. So I love that scene as well. Any others for you that were close calls?
Yeah, the Anakin hates sand scene is fascinating to me. The butt cow, the shack scene, but that little conversation that has become a meme about Anakin and Padme's discussion of politics and how much does Anakin really mean what he says. That is, I think, an underrated, nuanced scene. And then Obi-Wan versus Dooku in the fight is great. Basically, every scene with Obi-Wan.
That counts.
Is also on my
Obi-Wan.
Close call.
Well, there we go. That is our list, our favorite scenes in Attack of the Clones. We know you might have some choices as well, or you agree with ours and want to add to it and share your experience and perspective. Do so by reaching out on social media at ForceCenter Pod, or if you're watching on YouTube, leave a nice comment down below. Hey, like the video, hype it up within the first 7 days of release if you want to, if you can, to help us spread the word. And you can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter and get into our Discord and discuss all the things there. Hey, if you're listening to this when the episode came out, first week of February 2026, in the year of our Lord, I will be in La Jolla with Mark Ellis this Saturday. Mark's in there all weekend. He's got Jen Sturger featuring for him on Friday. I'm featuring for him on Saturday the 7th. Come on out. Tickets at the La Jolla Comedy Store website. website, and follow me at Catnap. So, sir, where can I follow you and send you pictures and memes of Obi-Wan?
Please do. You can find me on most of the social media, Blue Sky in particular, at Joseph Scrimshaw. And you can check out everything else going on with me and the film I've been working on called Dead Media on my website, josephscrimshaw.com. And if you want to help people in Minnesota who are going through just a totally unjust and unfair occupation of their city, you can go to standwithminnesota.com.
There you go. That is it. Star Wars has been ranked.